Great Society Ministries, and this video will, I hope it doesn't get censored, but perhaps it will. I want to make a case for why anti-Semitic religions, or a religion, so it could be plural or one, is necessary. It is a necessity. Why? Because if you look at the history of these of the Abrahamic, because another synonym that I'll probably end up titling this video is anti-Abrahamic, because these major religions, and its majority sect Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, have done more harm than good, and I feel that they'll do more harm in the future. This is just an introduction, so I won't get into, I'm just laying the groundwork, so I won't be citing any sources. This will probably end up being majority opinion. When you look at the historical record of Christianity, you have it being used as a tool by Emperor Constantine in order to vanquish his foes. He himself does not convert to Christianity until his deathbed. He doesn't get baptized, I should say. His entire life he worshipped Sol Invictus and other Roman gods. But he notices the usefulness of the faith because it had become a popular religion within all the social stratas. It wasn't the most popular religion, but it was a force to be reckoned with. And once the Roman Empire sponsored Christianity, there was nothing to oppose its growth. And with the sponsorship, later came the condemnation or the outlawing of paganism. There are a lot of critics of Islam on here, and I could think of one in particular, well, actually two. You have Christian Answers. Actually, there's a multitude, but Christian Answers is a big critic. But then you also have a channel entitled Don't Convert to Islam. And one of their major talking points against Islam is that it's spread via the sword. However, Christianity also spread via the sword. And I would argue more so, because not only you have Constantine using it as a political tool, as an example of it being used by the sword, you had later on, under Charlemagne, you had the forced conversion of the Germanic tribes that were east of the Rhine. And the Germans did not want Christianity. They were forced into it. Later on, you would have what's known as the Baltic Crusade, where the followers of the Norse mythology were forcibly converted to Christianity. So this whole pretense of Christianity spreading peace, and not only that, the biggest windfall Christianity received was in the Western Hemisphere, where my ancestors, who were more than likely some sort of West African polytheist, was a part of my ancestry, being Afro-American. Part of my ancestry is West African and other various parts of Africa. Christianity was forced on them via the sword. It wasn't preached and accepted peaceably. It was forced through the lash and through the threat of violence, and it stuck. Now, to be fair, Afro-Americans put their own mark on Christianity and adopted a religion to the extent that it suited them. So there were some African survivals within the faith, but overall Christianity was imposed forcibly. And also that it was also foisted onto the First Nations of the Western Hemisphere, or the first people, or the Native Americans. I prefer the former terms as opposed to Native Americans. I think it's a bit imperialistic, but these, that's one good case in point. so these religions were born of violence, and also when it comes to the followers of the Talmud and the Torah, their religion was, or they're the foundations of, because their whole reason for being is their belief that they're entitled to the land between the River Nile and the River Euphrates. So that's the original promise, but more specifically to the Levant, they feel is that's they're the chosen people. They're chosen of God. So everyone else isn't chosen by by it's implied, and actually it's explicit. And when one reads the book of Isaiah, they're supposed to rule over all the nations. Israel's gates are supposed to be left open day and night, so the wealth of all the followers of the Talmud and the Torah can pour into their coffers. And there's a video floating around on YouTube where an actual Israeli asked other Israelis, do you believe that we're going to have non-Jewish slaves? And you'll hear most of them agree that that's what their religious texts say, and all they differ on is the number of individuals per Israelite is going to have under their yoke. So these religions are imperialistic. They're hostile towards non-adherents, and also they force themselves onto others either directly or indirectly. And the same is true for the majority sect within Islam. And more specifically, Ibn Taymiyyah, whose theology was adopted by Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, who said that Arabs are the master race and they're superior and everyone should be subject to them. They should be in charge of humanity. There were wars of conquest fought under the leadership of the Umayyad clan for Arab supremacy. Everything that I just stated is a historical record. It is not fiction. It is not hyperbole. If one reads the primary religious text of all these sects that I named, so Christians, the Old and New Testament, the Torah, the Tanakh, the Talmud, the Hadiths of the majority sect, Muslims, the evidence is there for this argument. So how can one, when you're not racially a part of these groups or ideologically a member of these groups, how can one not be opposed? How can one not be anti these groups? Hence the necessity of an anti-Semitic religion to counterbalance, or let's make that plural, religions. Just a thought. Support Great Society Ministries. There should be more forthcoming videos today, but we'll see.